to give him his strong hand. He said he knew that he was going to be able to get his strong hand in.
Okay, so you took care of Montiel. You just called out Charlo. Break down the fight. You were in Jermall.
¿Qué piensas con la pelea contra Charlo? ¿Qué piensas?
Bueno, si él hizo 12 rounds con Montiel, yo me imagino que no haya dado uno conmigo.
Yeah, you know that. He said if he did 12 rounds with Montiel, I don't think he can go 1 round with me.
What's good, Just Do family? It's KB, back with another one, man. So y'all just heard it. That was Carlos Adames. As y'all know, he just had a fight last night where he knocked out Juan Montiel in 3 rounds. Made short work of him, man. I mean, he completely blitzed this dude from the opening bell. I mean, his jab was crisp. His hooks was landing. He was punching all types of sweat off of Montiel's head. And he didn't even stand a chance. I mean, he completely just wiped through him. And I know a lot of people was paying attention to this fight because, you know, Juan Montiel also went up against a top fighter in Jermall Charlo in his last bout. That was in 2021. That was June 19th of 2021 where he went up against Jermall Charlo and he took Charlo the distance. So a lot of people were paying attention to this fight to see just how Carlos Adames would do against, you know, a common opponent that him and Charlo now share. And, you know, the results was drastically different. You know, Carlos Adames came right out. He controlled the center ring from the opening bell. And, I mean, he completely just punched through Juan Montiel like a wet paper bag, man. It wasn't even close. It wasn't competitive. Montiel didn't land anything of note that mattered. And he was out of there within 3 rounds. I mean, like I said, Carlos Adames, you know, he completely just took Juan Montiel apart. And it wasn't even close. You know, it was an impressive 3rd round stoppage. Rightfully so, the ref saved Montiel as Carlos Adames was, you know, coming on strong. You know, a right hook punched a ton of sweat off his head, wobbled him. He was hitting him with left and right hooks all the way until the, you know, the referee jumped in and ended it. Beautiful performance from Carlos Adames. I told people this dude was dangerous and he was going to get a possible stoppage. I didn't think the stoppage was going to come this early, but nonetheless it did. And you know the saying, they don't get paid for overtime. So Carlos Adames made short work of Juan Montiel. And, you know, now he's the WBC mandatory for Jermall Charlo's belt. And, you know, in this little clip, you just heard him speak. You know, he said if Charlo win 12 rounds with Montiel, he won't last 1 round with me. And I thought that was a little bit of bravado. It was a little bit of trash talk. It's all good. It's the fight business. But I think he's severely wrong. He won't knock Charlo out at all, win, lose, or draw, despite who will win that fight. I think Charlo is a much better fighter than what he showed against Juan Montiel. And a lot of people, you know, I think are being overly critical of the performance. I think, you know, the fact that they seen Montiel stand up to Charlo's punching power and actually fight back, you know, I think, you know, a lot of people are looking at Charlo as him not being a good a fighter as he is. And I think that's a mistake on people's behalf. I think Charlo was a victim of a guy fighting down to his competition when he fought Juan Montiel. And that's the way I seen it. But if you look at the scorecards, you know, 119, 109, 118, 109, 120, 108, it wasn't even close. You know, a lot of people complain about the scorecards, but all 3 judges seen it for Charlo. You know, the most Montiel did was win a few rounds, push back. You know, he did catch Charlo with some shots that he definitely shouldn't have got caught with. He slightly buckled Charlo in one of the rounds as well. You know, Charlo also had a cut over his eye, and a lot of people felt like, you know, the fight was way too competitive, and you know that Charlo's just not on the level people say he's on because of this fight. And I beg to differ. This one performance is one fight. You got to think Charlo is 32-0 with 22 knockouts. You know, this is one of the most competitive fights, if not the most competitive fight that he had in his career. And I think he was fighting down to his competition. I think he was a victim of a guy fighting down to the competition. And that's why I'm an advocate for fighters challenging themselves accordingly throughout their careers. You know, I think in fighting guys, subpar opposition, or guys you're supposed to beat, you know what I mean? You establish some complacency, you know what I mean? And it just was no sense of urgency in that fight for Charlo. And, you know, for some, he made it more competitive than it needed to be. But nonetheless, like I said, the fight wasn't even close when you look at the scorecards. It was very competitive in spots, but for the most part, Charlo was never at risk of losing the fight at all. I think a lot of people are, you know, over-exaggerating the situation with Charlo. I think he handily beat Juan Montiel, but he didn't stop him. A lot of people was expecting him to stop Montiel, being that, you know, Montiel was stopped early in his career, I believe, from Jaime Munguia. You know what I mean? And I guess people expected, you know, Charlo to stop him, and that's not always the case. I think Juan Montiel definitely got up for Charlo. I think he was in better shape for the Charlo fight than he was for the Adames fight. That's the first thing I noticed when he took that poncho off, is his midsection. Looked like he ain't been doing much work. Look, he didn't look in great shape at all. That's no slight to Carlos Adames. I'm just simply saying, to me, Juan Montiel looked like he was in better shape for Jermall Charlo, which then, you know, awarded him the opportunity to have a better performance. And the fact that he didn't lay down, he came to fight, you know, it made the fight interesting. But nonetheless, he lost majority of the rounds. He only won a couple rounds. Arguably, he lost 10-2, 9-3 at the absolute most. Pretty much got dominated, but he was competitive. So in being competitive, a lot of people kind of missed the fact that he was losing these rounds despite how competitive he was being. So nonetheless, now that Jermall Charlo and Carlos Adames share a common opponent, you know, a lot of people are looking for them to fight. And not only that, he's a WBC #1 mandatory for the belt that Jermall Charlo holds. So, you know, Charlo ain't been in the ring since, you know, Juneteenth of last year, you know what I mean, of 2021. He was supposed to fight Juneteenth of this year against Selecki. That fight fell through, and he's been out and inactive ever since. You know, he's been having some out the ring situations in his personal life that I won't really get into. I'm wishing Charlo the best. Hopefully he gets back in the ring sooner or later, and hopefully Carlos Adames is one of the opponents on his short list of guys to come back and look impressive against. But that's my thoughts on it. Y'all get in the comment section. You let me know what y'all think. Let me know if Carlos Adames is a real player at 160. And let me know who y'all think will win between Carlos Adames and Jermall Charlo. And as always, get in that comment section and let me know if I gave Jermall Hitman Charlo and Carlos Adames their just due, because that's what I do over here at JusDueBoxing. To the next one, I'm out. Peace.